Well, a new witness is expected to take the stand in the Senzo Meyiwa murder case, this in the High Court in Pretoria. Just last week, the court had heard crucial evidence from a ballistics expert linking a firearm seized from accused number 3, that's Manqoba, to the shooting. Now, on Friday, another ballistics expert had confirmed that the gun before court recovered from Manqoba is the same one that he tested for a 2015 case for which Manqoba was convicted. Our reporter, eNCA's Manqoba Mchunu, is following, of course, the story for us and joins us now for the very latest. And Manqoba, a very warm good morning to you. I mean, damning revelations in court just last week about how exactly Meyiwa was killed and the gun that killed him now being linked once again to the accused. Just remind us, colleague, of what happened in court and why this matters.
Well, Tumela, certainly this is all crucial evidence that emerged here at the North Gauteng High Court as far as the killing of Senzo Meyiwa back in October 2014. We now understand exactly where Meyiwa was standing at the time that fatal shot was fired. And this came out of the evidence of ballistic expert Chris Mangena, who testified in court last week as to the fact that at the time when this shot had gone off, Senzo Meyiwa had been standing with his back against the kitchen door, and we understand that the kitchen door was half open, which is why that bullet has then ricocheted after it had pierced Senzo Meyiwa. But we also understand, Tumelo, from the evidence of Chris Mangena that this particular shooting, it happened at close range. The shooter was in front of Senzo Meyiwa, and the gun at that particular point had been pressed against his chest when the shot was fired in a downward trajectory. And of course, also revealing crucial information that there were actually 2 shots that were fired on the night that Senzo Meyiwa was killed. One of them was fired on the direction of the floor. It hit the tiles, and then that particular bullet had fragmented. And it's the second one that he says killed Senzo Meyiwa. And the bullet that we know now was found by forensic investigators the next day after they had arrived at that particular scene. But also, crucially, what we understand is the linkage between the bullet projectile that was found with the gun that was confiscated from Manqoba back in 2015. You recall, Tumelo, that he had been arrested for a taxi-related crime in Alexandra, and his gun was confiscated during that arrest. And during, of course, the test and the analysis that were done by police, they were able to trace that particular firearm back to Manqoba. And we understand now that it is that same firearm that we also got to see in court that was responsible, or that fired the bullet projectile that killed Senzo Meyiwa. But let's take a listen to the evidence of Mangena from last week as he explained exactly the link between this firearm and the killing of Senzo Meyiwa.
The exhibits which you sealed on the 30th. Sorry, 13th. On the 13th of February 2015, right? Today is the 1st of September 2023. Are they the same exhibits that you sealed?
Yeah, it's the same firearm.
That's it.
It's the same firearm.
Same firearm. And then the blue case, you actually wrote on it in February 2015.
It's the blue case, yeah. It's the same blue case.
So that hiatus of that missing time, which would have accorded an unscrupulous person to switch the firearms, is it the same firearm which you sealed?
Yeah, according to me, the one that I marked with the lab number.
In 2015.
According to me, my lord, yeah.
And today is the 1st of September 2023. Is still the same firearm?
According to me, my lord.
That's it. Okay, fine. You can go on.
Well, Manqoba, I mean, once again, the police under the spotlight as another ballistic expert took to the stand. What can we expect today, though?
Well, certainly, Dumela, and I think the bite that we played prior to this was exactly from that evidence that came out on Friday in court when ballistic expert Cornelius Rulos took the stand. Of course, he worked in the division that Chris Mangena had also worked in, and this was the first ballistic expert to have tested that particular firearm back in 2015 for the case that we spoke about recently. And he confirmed, of course, to the court that this was in fact the same firearm that he had tested back in 2015. You recall, of course, that there have been concessions, or in fact there have been arguments by the defense to the effect that there might have been tampering, or that the firearm might have been exchanged, and of course again putting a spotlight on police investigation as far as this case is concerned, and the way in which the police had followed procedure as far as handling of crucial evidence is concerned. And what the defense is contending is that there was contamination of the crime scene, and that with the exhibits that are before court there might have been a contamination. They're still insisting that it is the people that were inside the house that shot and killed Senzo Meyiwa. So we did see, of course, the police investigation and conduct being thrust into the spotlight, with more questions, of course, being raised by the defense as to how this particular firearm had been stored. You recall that in his affidavit, Chris Mangena had admitted that in 2020, when he had taken this firearm, he had found it in an open sealed bag, and there were a lot of questions that were posed as to how a gun could have been found in an open sealed bag, which of course the defense had put two rulers as well on Friday. But I think also today what we're expecting, Dumelo, is the focus to continue around police investigation and their handling of the crime scene. We're expecting another police officer to take to the stand this morning. But perhaps I want us to go back and listen to Chris Mangena as he explained that link between the firearm and how crucial that evidence is, because this is the evidence that now links one of these accused that is before court to this particular incident, Mthobisi Mncube to be exact. We already understand, obviously from what we've heard in court, that these five accused also had communication prior to Senzo Meyiwa being killed. But perhaps let's take a listen to that bite just to get a context of how damning and how crucial that piece of evidence was.
Mentioned in 3.1 was fired in the pistol mentioned in 7.1.
So in simple terms, what does this paragraph mean, 9.1?
Paragraph 9.1 means that the bullet that was recovered from the firearm, from the crime scene, was fired from this firearm. Examine the fired bullets mentioned in 3.1 and 8.2. Compare the individual and class characteristic marking transferred to them by firearm components during the firing process using a comparison microscope, and found there is sufficient class and individual characteristic markings present on both exhibit and test bullets mentioned in paragraph 3.1 and 8.2.
All right, we'll leave it there, Manqoba Mchunu, as we, of course, await for our court to begin this morning. And we'll take our viewers live inside court when those proceedings do start.